Some Nigerians allegedly blame ethnic politics and zoning for the country's current challenges. Some Nigerians have argued that ethnic politics and the practice of zoning have contributed to many of the leadership challenges facing the country today. They believe that competence should take precedence over ethnic or regional considerations when electing public officials. Somehow, those who hold this view argue that many voters continue to support candidates primarily because they come from the same ethnic group or region, even when questions are raised about their ability to govern effectively. They believe this pattern has affected the quality of leadership and slowed national development. Critics also argue that Nigeria's political leaders should be evaluated based on their performance, policies and capacity to address national issues such as economic growth, security, infrastructure and job creation rather than on ethnic identity or regional affiliation. Some Nigerians have expressed dissatisfaction with the current state of the economy and the country's security situation under President Bola Tinubu's administration. They believe these issues will remain central to political debates as the country prepares for the 2027 general election. At the same time, supporters of President Tinubu maintain that his administration's reforms require more time to produce results and continue to support his leadership ahead of the next election. As political activities gather momentum, many Nigerians are calling on voters to place competence, integrity and national interest above ethnicity, religion and regional considerations when choosing the country's next leaders. President Bola Tinubu's alleged certificate controversy resurfaces ahead of the 2027 presidential election. Questions surrounding President Bola Tinubu's academic records and personal documentation have once again become a subject of public and political debate as Nigeria moves closer to the 2027 presidential election. Some Nigerians have renewed calls for what they describe as greater transparency regarding the president's educational history and official records. They argue that public office holders, particularly those seeking the nation's highest office, should be able to address questions about their qualifications and identity through the appropriate legal and constitutional processes. Somehow, critics point to previous legal disputes, court proceedings and public discussions relating to President Tinubu's academic credentials, age and documents submitted during past elections. They believe these issues should be fully clarified before Nigerians return to the polls in 2027. Supporters of the president, however, maintain that the courts and the Independent National Electoral Commission have already dealt with issues relating to his eligibility and that he was lawfully elected in accordance with Nigeria's constitution. They argue that the renewed controversy is politically motivated as preparations for the next general election gather momentum. Some Nigerians also believe that every presidential aspirant, regardless of political party, should be subjected to the same level of scrutiny regarding educational qualifications, identity and compliance with the country's electoral laws. As political activities intensify ahead of the 2027 elections, many citizens are calling for transparency, accountability and strict adherence to the rule of law, while urging all parties to allow competent institutions and the courts to determine any disputes concerning candidates' qualifications. Few Nigerians allegedly claim corruption and insecurity would increase under a Peter Obi presidency. Some individuals in Nigeria have allegedly claimed that corruption and insecurity would worsen if Mr. Peter Obi becomes the president of Nigeria. However, supporters of the former Anambra state governor strongly disagree with that position and describe such claims as politically motivated. Somehow, supporters of Mr. Peter Obi believe that these narratives are being promoted by individuals who benefit from the current political system and are determined to discourage Nigerians from supporting his presidential ambition ahead of the 2027 general election. According to those who hold this view, the campaign against Mr. Peter Obi reflects concerns among some political actors who believe he stands a strong chance of winning the presidency if the election is conducted in a free, fair and transparent manner. Supporters also argue that Mr. Peter Obi would introduce a style of leadership focused on accountability, responsible governance and equal opportunities for all Nigerians. They believe his administration would strengthen public institutions, promote merit and create an environment where citizens can succeed based on their abilities rather than political connections. Many of his supporters also maintain that Nigeria needs a leadership style that prioritizes good governance, national development and economic reforms capable of improving the lives of ordinary citizens. As the 2027 election approaches, political debate is expected to intensify. Ultimately, Nigerians will decide at the ballot box who they believe is best suited to lead the country. Thousands of repentant terrorists in Nigeria were allegedly cleared by the government and allowed to rejoin various communities across the country. We have talked on this issue in the past, and we believe it remains an important subject that deserves continued public discussion. While forgiveness is an important value, many Nigerians question whether individuals who were once involved in terrorism should be allowed to freely return to society without adequate safeguards and long-term monitoring. Somehow, concerns have continued to grow over reports that thousands of repentant terrorists were allegedly cleared under government rehabilitation programs and reintegrated into various communities across Nigeria. Critics argue that national security should remain the highest priority and that every necessary measure should be taken to ensure the safety of law-abiding citizens. Some security analysts and members of the public have also expressed concerns that former insurgents who were integrated into society or security-related programs could, if not properly screened and monitored, pose security risks. However, the government has maintained that its de-radicalization and rehabilitation initiatives are aimed at promoting peace and reducing insurgency. The worsening insecurity across several parts of Nigeria has continued to raise difficult questions about the country's overall security strategy. Many Nigerians believe stronger intelligence gathering, improved coordination among security agencies and greater accountability are needed to effectively combat terrorism, banditry and other violent crimes. As the country looks ahead to 2027, many citizens hope the next administration, regardless of political affiliation, will place the protection of lives and property at the center of its agenda. Nigerians want to live, work and travel without fear, believing that lasting peace and security are essential for economic growth and national development. The government of Nigeria is allegedly borrowing money to build coastal roads while existing roads across the country remain in poor condition. Some Nigerians have criticized the federal government over its decision to borrow money for the construction of coastal highways while many existing roads across the country remain in poor condition. According to critics, repairing and rehabilitating damaged roads should be given greater priority because millions of Nigerians depend on these routes for daily transportation, agriculture, commerce and other economic activities. They argue that many highways and rural roads have deteriorated to the point where they pose serious risks to motorists and increase the cost of doing business. Somehow, those expressing these concerns believe that the government should focus first on maintaining critical infrastructure before embarking on new mega projects. They argue that improving existing roads would have a more immediate impact on the lives of ordinary Nigerians and could help reduce accidents, transportation costs and travel time. Some critics have also questioned the decision to finance large infrastructure projects through additional borrowing, expressing concerns about Nigeria's growing debt profile and the long-term financial burden on future generations. Others have alleged that major infrastructure projects often attract greater public scrutiny because of the large sums involved, leading to calls for transparency, accountability and proper oversight in the award and execution of contracts. Supporters of the Coastal Highway project, however, argue that it is a long-term investment designed to improve connectivity, promote economic development and stimulate growth along Nigeria's coastline. As public debate continues, Many Nigerians are calling for prudent management of public funds, improved infrastructure planning and greater accountability in the execution of projects financed through public borrowing.